beat it. Just right before the bed ended, Doctor. How about that? We got everything on the screen and ready to go. Good timing. And great to have you back in the studio today.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, it's great to be here.
It's been, about a year now since you've joined us on the show?
About that. I was looking back, just about a year.
Well, how's everything been? How's the year?
It's going great. It's going really, really great.
Well, and, I really am interested in having this conversation today. Randy was sending me some stuff over a couple of days ago and just really fascinated me when it comes to artificial AI versus, therapist responses and just, really interested to hear about this kind of new wave of technology that I think sometimes folks maybe over rely on to not a fault, but maybe just rely on it because it's an easier, less evasive, program. But it's also fascinating to talk about the personal side of things and why you can't really replace certain professions or really certain industries with the computer.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of inevitable when they made AI. It's gonna
you're right.
It's gonna help you with your term paper. It's gonna help you with your homework. Well, and maybe it'll be your therapist one day. But yeah, and it's all very new, and you can't really make huge generalizations because you don't have this like longitudinal data from 3, 5, 10 years out. But you do have some observations about how people are using it.
And see, then that's interesting. So have you talked with any of your or spoke with any of your patients about using some form of an AI chatbot or some type of program when it comes to maybe how they're feeling about things, maybe like a way for them to help maybe daily journal or just their thoughts kind of summarize?
I have spoken with them, or they brought it up, or maybe I brought it up about using AI programs like, for example, ChatGPT or Gemini to kind of do what we're probably going to talk about today, help formulate difficult responses to certain situations. But there has been a lot of talk in the media about using AI as kind of like an adjunct for therapy, but I have personally not seen it much as of now.
Well, what ways could a 24/7 chatbot, because that's really what these programs are with a little bit more to it, help you, kind of navigate yourself. Maybe we're kind of nervous about bringing something up to our friends, or maybe we haven't gotten to our therapy session yet. Do you see any ways that, maybe we are on ChatGPT and we go, hey, I'm feeling, a little bit down the last couple of weeks. What are your thoughts on it? I don't know where to go with this, and with this question other than can we actually utilize this to kind of just get that, I hate to say blanket description of what we're going through, but at least some type of way for maybe some grounding for certain individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually heard from like the developers, a lot of these that's like therapy oriented chatbots. Yeah. Even they will tell you that they're not a replacement for therapy. Yeah. Even they will say that they are simply an adjunct for therapy, something for a therapist to kind of assign between sessions.
Really?
To really kind of remind you about the work that you're already doing in therapy and remind you about what you're supposed to be working on between sessions, like any good therapist.
Now, that's really fascinating because to me, that seems like a better way to actually get the work done too. Because, for me, whenever, I was in therapy and all that, and I'd have the homework to do, it would be hard for me to kind of actually do it because, it's like, where can I actually get motivated to do this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But with the chatbot, I think it could be more more of an interactive way to maybe get some folks that maybe aren't putting the 100% in that they might need to start interacting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, yeah, I mean, you use it like anything. You use AI to motivate you to work out every day, and so you can use it to motivate you to do your homework from therapy. Yeah, your exposure exercises, your social exercises, your mindfulness exercises, that sort of thing. But even the people who created these chatbots, they say that they never intended for them to be a full replacement for a human therapist.
And so it's like, it basically would be like, how if I'm going in by myself, not using it for, homework from a therapy session, but also just kind of going in as my, CJ on a Tuesday, and I go, hey, Chad, I'm not doing anything. How can I, motivate myself? Are those kind of the better ways to utilize that instead of, hey, for the last couple of years, I haven't, slept well, and on this Tuesday, I will go. You know what I'm saying? Is it one of those where blanket statements are kind of better for that type of a system?
Yeah, I think so. As in, if you're using it for this just kind of emotionally neutral information, right?
Yeah.
Just help me do this thing, help me accomplish this thing. Then I think it's a really good tool. If you're using it for anything that would like be enhanced or need like the care and concern of like another human being, then I think it falls short.
Well, and see, that's where I think that that's kind of should be for hopefully people that are utilizing that, something they think about, because you have to have that personalized individual care. You know, you have to have someone that can critically think on the fly and that's not, you know, programmed to tell you to do certain things. Because, you know, I tried this once after Randy's email, and I was just, you know, kind of putting things in, and it's like the more that you input, that's all it is gathering that data. So it's just going to keep feeding it back out to you.
It will give you the perfect answer. And that's not a question. It'll give you the
make
perfect,
you look brilliant.
tailored answer. But, you know, it's a lot of times in any relationship, you're not looking for the perfect answer. You're looking for an authentic and a real answer, an answer with heart. So, you know, you're not looking for that from your partner or your boss or whatever it is. You're looking for something that means I'm seeing you as a human being.
Well, and something too, I think that it's also good to know for maybe folks that are feeling like they don't have someone to talk to, or, you know, maybe they don't know what else to try and they're going to utilize this, is, you know, putting, you know, emotional and kind of sensitive information out there too, because that can be somewhat, you know, not saying it's your data's getting taken tomorrow, but something to be mindful of too, you know, especially when it comes to your internet, if you're putting something into an email specifically, or, you know, anything like that.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Also, this is very interesting. So if you listen to the creators of these AI chatbots, they'll tell you there's a huge generational gap when it comes to this.
Yeah.
That young people are, like, let's say 18 and under, are much more willing to do this, to put in, let's say, personal information or disclose personal information to a computer, maybe because they're less aware of the risks, maybe because they simply prioritize, well, I'd rather get my help than, you know, let's say some far off consequence of my data being mined or something like that. But young people are much more, you know, willing to do that, and they're much more receptive to these chatbots, you know, kind of helping them with the day-to-day stuff.
Well, and see, does that bother you at all when or I shouldn't say bother you, but does that raise questions for you at all whenever, because to me, my fear is, you know, I think the whole point of growing up and developing who we are as human beings in our brains, it's because we're kind of learning how to communicate and make decisions, you know, because of our experiences in life, you know, and what my fear is someone, you know, a kid's going to, you know, have a kind of a rough time in school, maybe not know how to talk to his friends or make friends, or she doesn't know how to, you know, accomplish X, Y, or Z. And then you kind of get attached to chat because it worked once, and you're like, well, all right, now I got to talk to my, you know, parents about how I'm going to start getting an allowance, and I'm just not feeling very assertive here, you know, and you start, you start kind of basing it off of what a program is telling you how to live.
That's the big fear. Again, you know, like, we don't know what form this is going to take in the future. We don't know the long-term effects, but the big fear is this, yes, that people are basically going to be exporting their brains to, you know, the latest iteration of ChatGPT or whatever comes next. And, you know, there is some research already that, you know, heavy, and we're talking very heavy use, but heavy use of AI is associated with some cortical changes in the brain, some reduction of white matter in the brain. Doesn't sound so good, right?
No. You sound like, I don't know if that sounds healthy.
It doesn't sound good, but those studies did look at very heavy use, and the changes were relatively minor. It's hard to know what exactly that means. But,
you know, that's fascinating because we haven't had AI really that long. So to see those changes that quickly is pretty not alarming, but it's just kind of an eyebrow raiser.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It definitely raised some questions.
Hey, do you have a moment to take a break with me?
Absolutely.
I got to pay a quick bill. That's all. 9:32, a little bit of change. Hey, we'll come back with more of this great conversation. You stay there. We'll stay here in the studio on RiverBender.com and Roku TV.
Throughout all life stages, you need someone in your corner, guiding you on your health and wellness journey. At OSF Healthcare, that's your primary care provider. Your OSF primary care provider is there for every stage of life. Find a provider today at osfhealthcare.org/primary.
Cardin Circus is coming to town. It's fun for the whole family. Don't miss out. Get ready for breathtaking aerial stunts and a heart-pounding thrill ride that will have you on the edge of your seat. 2 nights only. See the magic in Jerseyville on May 27th and Highland on May 29th. Bring the whole family and experience the wonder of Cardin Circus. Get your tickets now at glowcircus.com.
Since 1993, Sparks Junk Removal is always adapting to the needs of our clients. That is why we now offer weekly trash pickup for selected areas. Plus, we offer driveway-safe rubber-tired dumpster rental. Give us a call today at 618-781-1407 or visit us at sparksjunkremoval.net.
When I got in the car accident at the ER, they gave me a prescription of hydrocodone, and over time, it took more medication to mask the pain. I moved over to drug seeking and found heroin and fentanyl. I went to the Centerstone rehab facility, and it was the best decision I ever made in my life. I have my own car. I have a job. There's nothing holding me back anymore.
You're listening to Our Daily Show with CJ Nasello on RiverBender.com.
Welcome back. 9:34. Little bit of change. Back with Dr. Lakritz. Did I do that right?
That's right.
Oh, better than last year.
Exactly.
See, it's not about how you start, it's how you finish. You know what I'm saying here?
You can accomplish a lot in a year, CJ.
Oh, man. You know, we were talking off the air about how you were putting this article together, and you were putting they gave you some prompts to kind of utilize, or how did that work?
Yeah. It was in Self magazine most recently. Yeah, they asked ChatGPT a bunch of kind of like difficult interpersonal situations, telling your manicurist that she did a bad job and you want a refund, telling your landlord that you're going to be late on rent or you don't have it, asking a friend to pay their portion of the check when they've been kind of skirting that. And they got ChatGPT's response, and then they presented me with those responses, and I kind of I gave my semi-professional opinion on the quality of those responses.
Well, let's go through some of those if you don't mind. Take me through some of the ones that stuck out.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Yeah, so, that one about, the scenario where you're going out to dinner with friends and everyone's paid their part of the check and this person still has not coughed up.
Al Bundy.
The worst, right? The worst, yeah. Give him the throw the book at him. So anyway, ChatGPT essentially, gave a very Weasley response. ChatGPT was being very polite. ChatGPT. I won't say the whole response because it was quite lengthy, and that tells you something. Right. I can't even read the whole thing. Right. It was very lengthy. It was saying, if it's okay, if you could pay, could you do this when it's convenient for you? I know if you don't have enough, we can set a payment plan. I'm like exaggerating a little bit, but that's just not the way to handle these difficult conversations, in my opinion. You want to be direct. You want to be polite, of course. You don't want to be mean or aggressive, but you want to be direct and unequivocal. Don't give them any room for, thinking other things or error. Same thing, ChatGPT had a scenario where didn't say the genders of who was involved, but, a coworker kept asking, the questioner out for some sort of in-person thing, like in-person coffee, in-person meal, something like that. And it wasn't really clear whether it was platonic or romantic. But again, ChatGPT is given this very, very sanitized, politically correct answer, and it's, and I can't do it now. And, I really, enjoy your company in other ways. And can we find a way to enjoy our company in other ways? And it's just no. Be equivocal, be unequivocal, be straight, say what you mean, because you're just sort of feeding into, this, you're giving this person all sorts of mixed messages.
Well, and this one I found so fascinating was this canceling plans last minute. And it gave that generic and, like you said, a somewhat of a Weasley response. And I think that's what number one, when you have to read a book of a response for a simple statement, I think that there's already a problem.
Short is key.
You know what I'm saying? But I think that when you look at those, though, like you said, you gotta be not be assertive, but you just got to be you, and you got to just be able to experience things and put yourself out there. Because if you're scared about canceling plans, that's a whole, that's going to create a whole lot more problems going further down the road.
Exactly. People respond well to authenticity
right.
in the long run, right? One of these very sanitized ChatGPT answers that might kind of make the immediate situation a little less awkward and a little more comfortable. But in the long run, you're not really asserting yourself. You're not really saying your needs. You're not really showing this person that you say what you mean, that you're an authentic person. And you're just causing, I'd say, like more kind of kicking the can down the road, just causing more interpersonal problems along the way.
Well, and to me, it's going to be one day the Band-Aid's going to be ripped off whether you like it or not,
Exactly.
because you aren't going to be on the date. Now, that would be interesting. If you're on a date with somebody and like you have chat hooked up to your Siri so you can just kind of have it listening the whole time.
What if your phone dies?
Oh, right. Well, I mean, but I'm glad to hear you say that, because it's all about being your authentic self. And I think so many times with social media and everything else that's going on, and with virtual reality and how crazy that's getting, and now with AI, is that we're forgetting that we're humans, and you got to go through being the good parts of life and the bad parts. Yeah, there's rejection, and there's going to be tough circumstances that you're a part of, or maybe your bum of a friend hasn't paid in 13 weeks and you're tired of going out and catching the bill,
Exactly.
And so what do you kind of recommend for people that maybe are having problems or maybe not feeling as confident in themselves? What's that first step, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is very similar to the way I work with folks in my therapy practice, with folks suffering from social anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, the hallmark of social anxiety is the fear that I'm going to put myself out there into what's known as an evaluative situation. I'm going to be judged in some way. My looks, the way I speak, my opinions, my attractiveness level, something like that. And I'm going to be judged unfavorably, and I'm going to be rejected. And that fear of rejection is really what drives, that's like the engine behind social anxiety. Mm-hmm. So if a person can, even in a small way or even gradually, get over that idea of that, by putting myself out there, I might fail, but that's okay, because I'm going to try again and again and maybe do a little bit better next time. That's I think, the way to really develop as a person. And that's the way I think to not become so reliant on these AI generated answers, that they're just so perfect and no one could take offense or no one could find anything wrong with them. But, you're not really kind of exercising that social muscle.
Well, and see, that's where I think this is so fascinating of a conversation, because like we were talking about earlier, and that's why I wanted to kind of wrap up with this, is using it for homework help and using it for your therapy tools. That's such an efficient thing. If you can create an AI code that could, basically say, here's your online diary for the next couple of days until we talk again, or when you're writing about these feelings you're experiencing, it could be a much more efficient way to summarize those in a coherent way that you can go back and reread them, or something like that. But when it comes to just living life, that's a whole different ballgame.
It seems like it. Yeah. Amongst those ChatGPT prompts, it seemed to do the best in that situation I described before, where a person got a manicure, they're not really happy with it. They want this kind of polite but assertive way of asking, for them to redo it. And it seems to do best there with these relationships that they're not like personal, intimate relationships.
Gotcha.
But they're also not these like, completely impersonal relationships. They're like a weird sort of in between. You're gonna see this person again. You're gonna have somewhat of this relationship. There it does okay. There it has a really good balance of assertive communication. But I found that you go too far to the poles, like conversation between like your wife or your husband, or on one end, or conversation between like the barista at Starbucks or something like that, then it just gets a little too wonky.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that, another thing that's so important about AI that I think everyone keeps forgetting about is, like you keep saying, your prompts. It's all about how you prompt it too. So if you use chat for the first time and just type in, hey, here's how I'm feeling, what's going on, they aren't going to know any type of tone or any type of way to speak with you too. So like when you say, now give me an assertive response, or give me a somewhat of a positive, non-aggressive, but still assertive response, at least it has an idea. But even then, you have to be a therapist to truly prompt something and truly put in the terminologies and the definitions of what you need to actually achieve in that response, because you just aren't going to get the data you need back.
I agree with you. There was a ChatGPT prompt in the article, again, kind of going back to the article. Very common situation. Partner was upset with other partner for, I think it was leaving the clothes on the floor.
Dang it.
Super common. Yeah. Like,
we're going to counseling.
Exactly. Yeah. And wanted a way to bring this up in the best way. And again, ChatGPT gives us like very like nice, like, kind of like coachy answer. Like, okay, like I see this is like, kind of hard for you. Let's, what can we do to, work on this? Can we try this? Can we try that? I don't think that's the right call. I think that your partner would just kind of want to hear like, hey, can we, You see, I'm kind of falling into it myself. Assertiveness, directness with some sensitivity. That's going to cover, CJ, like 99% of human interactions.
Right. Well, I can tell you what my mom would say to my dad if his clothes were on the floor.
Yeah.
Get them up.
Yeah.
Oh, and it would be an expletive somewhere. I don't know.
I hear you. I think people are like responding to that they maybe like want something like a little bit like softer these days, but people fair. Still very much value like things said in your own voice.
Yeah. Well, and like you said though, it's just like once you start going into and training your brain to think that way though, to me, like we were talking about, it just leads to some things that could cause some significant problems later on when you have a true situation in front of you, not necessarily covering bills or, covering maybe some personal feelings, but, gosh darn, if something bad truly happens where you have a negative event and it's kind of world changing, chat's not going to be able to help you with that. You got to be able to use the tools that to experience life with to kind of get through it too, with the help of good therapy.
I'll never say no to that.
I like that. I like that. I like this conversation. Anything else before I let you go for now?
Yeah, I think everything needs balance. Again, you can use this as a tremendous tool to really enhance your work. But, just keep, and again, there's really no like long-term data on this. So we don't really know exactly what we're talking about when we talk about the effects. Yeah. But, just self-monitor yourself. Do I feel like I'm starting to export my brain out more and more and more to this computer, to this faceless thing in a cloud somewhere? Do I feel like I'm neglecting certain parts of my personality? Do I feel like basically are things just a little bit too easy with communicating?
That's
with
true.
others? And that might be a sign that, you are.
That's interesting. Well, it's always great talking to you. Seriously, thank you so much for coming by. And hopefully next time it's not another year until I see you, because we always have some great conversations. And this one we'll link in an article on RiverBender.com to make sure you get some more details out of this. Dr. Lakritz.
Yeah,
thank you. See, I was scared. That's why I kept wrapping it around. See right. What I did there?
Another year, man. Another year. Yeah.
Dang it. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back with more Daily Show. And like I said, link this into an article on RiverBender.com. I'll stay here. You'll stay there. And we'll come back with more after this.